Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kathleen Ennis-Durstine. I am the manager of Chaplaincy Services here at Children's National Hospital. One of the things that chaplains feel is an important part of their responsibility is to care for the wellness and the wholeness of the entire organization. And one of the ways that seems important to us is to do that by lifting up some of the really special programs we have within the hospital, showcasing them and giving you a chance to understand how they work and how they operate and how they serve our patients and families. So today we're going to talk about our art therapy program, and I want to introduce to you this lovely young lady. I'm going to ask her to introduce herself to you, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the program.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. Hello, my name is Katana Priebe, and I am an art therapist here at Children's National. I'm so excited to be here and have this opportunity to share with you, and I'm so moved that you've been creating this opportunity for so many. It's really beautiful what you're doing.
Well, thank you so much. It's really our honor to be able to lift up these programs that are part of our sort of allied services in addition to medical throughout the hospital.
Absolutely. And art therapy is a holistic profession, so it takes in all different sides of it and, just mental health and wellness overall. So in the hospital, that looks so many different ways.
It sure does. Now, you are umbrellaed under a program called
Yes, Child Life and Integrative Care Services.
Integrative Care Services. Okay. All right.
So our department is, I'm very proud of our department. We have pet therapy. We just got music therapy this year. We have activity coordinators. We have volunteer services. I don't want to leave anybody out now. Seacrest Studio. It really is a wide program. Child Life is a huge part of it. We work with them every day. But it's just really rewarding to get to work with such an amazing team. And I do feel that everyone getting to collaborate for the benefit of these kids just really makes such a difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We can see it every day. I've always been curious, how did art therapy begin as a profession? What do you know about it?
Yeah, it's a little tricky because you can't just say, oh, this is the founder, this is how it started. It actually was a concept before it was a profession. So in Britain, with an artist actually, he was doing work with tuberculosis patients, and he noticed that making art for them was healing, just in of itself. But this was back in, 1943, I want to say.
Okay.
But in the States, it's actually been around since the 50s as a profession. And it's interesting because there's actually kind of two different sides of it happening at the same time. So there was the art as therapy movement, which was this idea that making art in of itself was healing.
Okay.
And at the same time, there was this other movement that was more art psychotherapy. And with this one, it was more like psychotherapy, except the expression was kind of used in conjunction with it. So then the expression is to communicate, to explore like all kinds of different ways of integrating within directly with mental health.
And in order to become is it a licensed or certified art therapist? What's the process?
Yeah. It's also a little bit messy.
Okay.
Because it doesn't have national licensure. It's individual by states.
Okay.
So states are actually very motivated right now. We've got, goodness, don't hold me to this, but probably about 20 that have licensure. But through the American Art Therapy Association, they have board certification. And so for that one, you have to have, all of the training is marked with, your master's education, 2 different internships, and then on top of that, 1,000 hours of post-education before you become certified. So it is a long process.
Okay. Sounds a little bit like chaplains in the process.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
But I don't know, when I think back to what it was like in graduate school, it was so incredible. It felt like this kind of convergence of everything that I was interested in, which actually, part of what got me into art therapy was this idea of psychology and art, and that they could actually coexist to help someone. And I was very curious about it, but there wasn't a program where I was growing up in Iowa, so it took this huge leap of faith applying to schools, and ended up coming out to Washington, D.C. Just fell in love out here. But yeah, it was through the coursework that I was like, yes, this is the right move. But that leap of faith was, I mean, it's very scary.
But it was.
Yeah. Every single class, though, it was just this kind of eureka moment where I was like, yes, this is what I've learned from my own experience in art. This is what I've witnessed from other people when they're doing art. And especially when I had taken a counseling, I was like, oh, there is this opportunity for art to come in with it. And I learned how to do that more directly and goal-oriented sort of ways with specific populations and specific settings in graduate school.
Okay. So you mentioned sort of the difference between art as therapy and kind of the psychotherapy of art.
Yes.
What do you use here primarily? Is it a mixture, or do you focus on one more than the other?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I think rather than those two fields, I think it's become a more of an integrative version of them. Almost like by doing, for me, I tend to lean a little bit more toward the art as psychotherapy, just because in the hospital it's very acute care. And so it kind of ends up doing both at the same time. Like making art, because it is all about the process and the therapeutic relationship, that is very, very healing. Especially when you have somebody who's there in a non-judgmental way, who's there to hold the space and can ground you if things get overwhelming. If you're, these kids, they're going through, it's just, sometimes they're holding so much suffering. And when they do have a way to safely express that, when they do have a way to have somebody witness that and hold it, that can be incredibly transformative and profound. So I don't take that responsibility lightly. I know that's a little bit of a tangent, but it definitely made me thinking about like kind of how it looks, but more so than art as therapy or art psychotherapy, I think it's remembering that it's about the process more than anything. A lot of times, like, we have very painful experiences associated with being an artist, or learning that art needs to be a certain way, or where we were judged, where we were told that we wouldn't be good enough, and we embodied that message, we internalized that message.
Color inside the lines. Skies have to be blue.
Your creativity box gets this small.
Okay.
And so my job is to help unlearn some of those messages, get rid of some of those roadblocks, and really help open up that creativity. And that's why I don't just work with children. I work with children, adolescents, adults. I work with plenty of staff. Sometimes staff are even harder with unlearning some of those messages. You're like, oh, no, I can't even draw a stick figure. And I'm like, well, it sounds like to make a stick figure, you'd have to make a mark. Making a mark, that's art. Line, shapes, and colors. And if you tell me your mark is, oh goodness, that mark is your home, then that mark is your home. Nobody else gets to decide. So I'll tell my kids, that mark is your insights. What it means, that comes from you. If anyone else comments on that mark, oh yeah, that's nothing. That's a mistake. That's an outsight. And it's up to the creator to decide if it's true or not. And that's why I'm not interpreting clients' artwork or anything like that. It's all built into their context and meeting them where they are.
Can you think of a time when you've had a really particularly fruitful relationship with one of our patients that you were sort of astounded by what you saw and what you learned, what this person was able to share?
a time when I was overwhelmed by the power of art therapy.
Yeah.
About 100 came to mind.
Okay.
But that's just because, like, when these kids, when they trust you, like, and they share with you, I really hold those in the highest of regards, and I can see the growth. And I really try to work from a strength-based perspective. So when you have the combination of noticing the growth, and noticing the strength-based, like, it does feel so important. But to give a more concrete example, one that I thought of was a female that I had worked with. She was a teenager, and she was struggling with an eating disorder. And this is a population that I work with quite a lot.
Okay.
And it was interesting to me because I started with the mandala, which is, a much more formalized form or directive for art therapy. And the idea is you create a circle. So you can trace something, you can hand draw it however you want, but as long as it's closed, you create a safe space. This idea that it's not just a blank page, you have something to create inside of.
Okay.
And it's actually a Jungian belief that it invites you to look internally and then create that. Whether it's line shapes, colors, symbols, collage, any material. And this girl, she was working with oil pastels. And oil pastels, if you haven't used them before, they can be pretty messy. And kind of hard to control, which if you know kind of how that might go over with somebody with an eating disorder, you're already pushing them outside their comfort zone.
That's true.
It doesn't, often that kind of relates a lot to control. And so she was using the very edge of it so that she could make these super precise, super detailed. And I told her just to, create anything she liked inside the circle using lines and shapes. Just kept it very, very open. And she ended up creating about this memory that she had of a really positive time. And, I come back the next day and maybe not the next day, but the next time we had a session, we talk about that piece and we talk a little bit more about what she was thinking and how it's a little bit different than where she was at. She was kind of living in this memory. How she had this to kind of ground if where she was today was really hard. So using that piece to kind of like be this safe place, we then created the next piece, which was about where she's at. Now this one, whereas that one was very controlled, this one she let go.
Wow.
She just completely different color palette. That one was like pastels. This one was like blacks and reds, and she was smearing it, and she was getting into it. And you could tell that she was just lost in this state of flow, which in the art therapy world is this idea of being challenged and invested and enjoying yourself all at the same time. And you just kind of lose track of yourself and time. And it's just like you are completely in the moment. Very, very mindful. And when she was done, she had color on her hand. She had rubbed her face. She literally was wearing her challenges, her suffering. And she was so proud of herself. She had this big smile on her face, and she was like, I have never been able to get it out before.
Wow.
And it doesn't need to be that. I don't need to be the only one. I can be one experience. But that was a shift that happened with art for her. And so in our last session, we really took both of these pieces and we brought them together. And we used, it's an interesting technique with tissue paper. So you can use water on it and the color actually like creates a wash and then you peel it off. So it's very out of control. And she used it to both make choices and have that sense of autonomy that's so important for anybody in the hospital, but also to be able to create the pastels, create the dark colors, and have them coexist. And I was so amazed when she takes a calligraphy pen and she writes balance right across the middle.
My goodness.
And I was like, I've got goosebumps again just thinking about it. Yeah. And she's just like, I thought that the goal was to get past this, but maybe, it's more like you were saying about holding both. And like what sort of things, keep the good, but also recognize where I'm at, so then I can, like, you know, there's a sense of acceptance there that she reached. And that was in 3 sessions.
Wow.
Like,
what a great creator of possibility.
Exactly. Exactly. And she just, sometimes that trust is so difficult, especially like when there's all kinds of complex trauma going on with so many of the patients that we work with, or, you know, various aspects like medical gaslighting is something that comes up, unfortunately, from other hospitals. But here you've got, you know, someone who's going to validate, not necessarily say if it's true or not, but just hold your truth, and lets you create it in a way that's true to you, and get it outside yourself, get some distance, be able to express freely.
That all sounds so exciting, and I'm ready to start tomorrow.
Excellent.
I'll give you a call. Katana, what's your favorite medium?
Oh, goodness. So it was actually my supervisor who found this material, and I got very, very excited. They're gel crayons. The first material that I used was oil pastels, but they're very similar to that. They actually have like a container so you can sanitize them. So in the hospital, that's very important, just practically. But they're water soluble, so they can be both resistive and have like that good sense of control, and more fluid, where you know, you can kind of add water and blend it and have a little bit less control, which as art therapy, that's a wonderful blend. I'm also kind of dipping my toes into sand tray a little bit. I think that can be really great, almost like a 3D collage. And being able to create something that's grounded in the sand, that literally these figures kind of become a symbol for things that you're experiencing, but instead of collage, you have the opportunity to move them, to change them, to add things, to take things away. And the way that I do it, there's no directive. It's just create your inner world in the sand. And then, you know, based on what they share for their story, like it's, you know, just honoring that and maybe even amplifying some of it so that they really feel heard.
You can, so it sounds like you may ask questions for clarification, or you may comment on something you see, but not in a directive way at all.
Right. The way that I do sand tray, absolutely. In art therapy session, I really try to go in without an agenda, because so much in the hospital does unfortunately have to have an agenda. So instead, I'm meeting them where they're at. I explain my role as a support, that I'm following their lead and trusting them to kind of help them trust the process and trust their own unique process. Because they can make art that no one else can. They have something to say that nobody else needs to say.
That's true. Very unique. So you are here what days of the week?
Yeah. I'm here Tuesdays through, wait a minute, Tuesdays through Saturdays.
Tuesday through Saturday, okay.
Yes. So I'm here throughout the afternoon, and we're a 2.5 person team, kind of 3-person team. So I'm a professional art therapist, board certified. We also have our art therapy fellow Katherine. She's been spectacular, and her days are Sunday through Thursday. And we just ended our internship. That's why she's not half a person. She just finished her internship. So we try to, you know, with our student internship program, make sure that it's kind of fitting the needs of both the hospital and her growing on her journey as she's, you know, going to be a full art therapist.
One of these days.
Such an honor. Yeah.
One of these days. So the units to which you are assigned, if anybody's interested in calling on your expertise?
Oh, definitely. If you are interested in art therapy and you know, are providing services on 5 East or 7 East, this includes the neuroscience unit as well as the surgical unit, burn, trauma unit, as well as 7 East, which is more of the general medical unit, then, you know, reach out, shoot me an email, give me a call. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's wonderful. I have learned more about art therapy than I knew there was to learn today, and that is always a good thing. And I'm just so delighted that you're part of the team here that continues to serve not only our patients and families, but staff. So thank you so very, very much for sharing this time with us today.
Thank you.